There are several steps you need to take to calculate the estimated hourly cost of customer delivery, and then to understand the reasoning behind these calculations. Starting with the costs for your agency is a vital step. Before you can turn around and present a monthly price point to your prospects and customers, you need to first unpack and estimate what the hourly cost is for your team to deliver these retainers. Communicating a price point to a prospect before calculating costs will leave you in a bad spot. For example, if you come in too low with your retainer pricing, you run the risk of overextending your agency. You'll be on the hook for delivering services that take up more hours than you budgeted for, and you'll be pitching retainers that are not profitable. On the other end, if you come in too high with your retainer pricing, you could have a difficult time demonstrating value. If your pricing is inflated, the services and desired outputs may not match up to that price tag. And that's assuming your prospects don't just scoff and end the discussion right there. So how do you get started? Well, first, you'll use your employee salaries to calculate an estimated hourly rate. From there, you'll accommodate agency overheads and your employees' utilization rate. When you've done this, not only will you have a firm grasp on your agency's delivery costs, you'll be able to calculate an hourly rate for your ongoing retainer services. When that's all said and done, you'll be a pricing guru in a highly profitable agency. Step 1. Add up the salaries of your client-facing staff and calculate the average salary. Consider this your billable hour team. For example, if you have a senior account manager earning $60,000 a year, a junior account manager earning $35,000 a year, and a content writer making $35,000 a year, you have an average employee salary of $43,333. But let's say your team looks like this. You have an inbound strategist earning $70,000 a year and a junior copywriter making $30,000 a year. Your agency's average employee salary here is $50,000 a year. Step 2. Turn this average salary into an hourly rate. Do this by taking the average salary number from step 1 and dividing it by 2,080, or the calculation of 40-hour work weeks multiplied by 52 weeks in a year. For our fictional agency Kev Inbound, they have a delivery team that looks like this. An account supervisor making $85,000, an inbound strategist earning $60,000, and a content writer making $55,000 a year. So after taking the average of those three roles, Kev Inbound's average salary is $66,667, which when divided by 2,080 breaks out hourly to $32 an hour. For agencies just getting started with this calculation process, this is your agency's blended hourly rate, or the average of all employees' billable rates. This simplifies the planning process by having one billable rate for your agency. But to take this one step further, an agency could bill at a higher rate for work performed by senior team members versus the work performed by junior staff. That calculation process is referred to your role-based rate. Role-based rates allow you to charge for the level of service provided by the team members involved. For example, would the hourly rate of a campaign objective that requires you to pull in a designer or developer be equivalent to a campaign objective that can be completed by your junior account manager? If not, this could impact your hourly rate that you use for your customer-facing price point. Step 3. Adjust this hourly cost by layering in your team's utilization rate. Utilization rate is the percentage of time your team dedicates to client-facing work. Yes, your team is in the office all day, but some of their time is being used for administrative tasks, checking and responding to email, contributing to internal projects, creating content for your agency, or maybe continued learning through HubSpot Academy. What about vacations, sick time, parental leave, or matters that pull your team out of the office? You'll also want to account for leave allocation and the time your team takes off. Utilization rate will help you calculate the percentage of time that can be considered billable to your clients. The best way to calculate this number is to track your employees' time, and there are a ton of tools out there to use. If an employee clocks 30 hours of client work, or billable hours, each week, divide those 30 hours by a 40-hour work week. This amounts to a 75% utilization rate. If a team of 4 clocks 100 hours of billable work, divide those 100 hours by 160, or the total of 4 employees' 40-hour work weeks. The utilization rate of this team here is 62.5%. If you don't currently track time, this is where you'll want to trust your own estimate. How much of your team's time goes to client work? And if you're just getting started with time tracking, ease in slowly. Have the team organize time by client instead of listing each individual task. And the last thing you would want to do here is come off as a micromanager. When you start thinking about making the move from a blended hourly rate to role-based rates, time tracking will be critical. For each service you provide, who owns what, and how much time is dedicated from each role at the agency. Once you have a utilization rate, you'll want to find your adjusted hourly cost. To do this, divide your hourly cost from step 2 by that utilization rate percentage as a fraction. For example, Kevin Bound's utilization rate is 60%, so they're going to divide that $32 an hour by 0.6. This makes their adjusted hourly cost $53 an hour. Now for step 4, account for overhead costs. When you look at the cost each team member represents for your agency, you can't just look at their salary. In this calculation, overhead refers to all other expenses, including rent, insurance, employee benefits, technology, tools, office space, utilities, coffee, team pizzas, and everything else. While the preferred method would be to calculate total expenses for each team member with salary plus overhead, HubSpot has researched and discovered that the average overhead for agencies is 30%. So for the final step in this calculation, take your adjusted hourly cost. As a reminder, Kevin Bounds is $53 an hour, and multiply it by 1.3. This is to account for 130% of your salary. So at Kevin Bound, their agency's hourly cost is $69 an hour. One important note on cost calculations. You don't always want to charge customers based on the current state of the agency. Instead, charge on ambition. Sure, cost may be lower now if you're just getting started. Maybe you're taking a half salary, or maybe you're taking no salary. This will drive your costs down, but this won't scale well when you do start to grow. Down the road and at renewal time, clients won't renew for the same services at double the cost. As you grow, both your billable and non-billable resources grow too. Account for these employees and resources from the start. Teams will go from 1 to 3 to 10. Teams of 10 will now need managers. And each year, these teams will be looking for raises and compensation increases. If you're running a lean operation, it can be helpful to use anticipatory numbers in these calculations instead of the numbers you're at today. By following these steps, you should have the hourly cost of delivering the services within your service pack. The next step now is to figure out what to charge as an hourly rate for your prospects and customers.